Hey everybody, welcome back to Bree's Toys. My name is Stephanie Bree. This is going to be the only toy video I do today. I don't want to get into the reasons, but this is a very special toy. So this might be a little bit longer, more in-depth video than you're used to. I hope you appreciate that. But this is Transformers Generation 1 Deluxe Insecticon Ransack. Now this is a very special toy for a lot of reasons. Um, just as a toy, it's pretty cool because it's a deluxe Insecticon, which there's a neat little side history regarding these toys. Um, if you're familiar with Transformers lore, you know that Hasbro brought over mostly toys from two Takara toy lines. Um, Micro Change from the Microman family, um, which has its roots in G.I. Joe. It's complicated. Watch The Toys That Made Us on Netflix if you want that story. And also from Diaclone, um, which was also made by Takara. Now, this one actually comes from another toy line. The Deluxe Insecticons came from a toy line made by Bandai. Now, Hasbro did import toys from Bandai as well as other toy companies, but mostly pretty heavily from Takara. So that's the history of the toy, briefly. Um, the deluxe Insecticons have never, to my knowledge, been reissued in their G1 designs, even modern designs. I don't know what the reason for that is. Ransack as a name has been reused a few times. Most notably, I'm familiar with the G2 Transformers Generation 2 Rotor Force airplane named Ransack, which I do not own. But this toy is also special because no, this is not one from my early childhood. So I want to put that out there. I did not have this as a kid. However, this was the first Transformer I bought when I got into Transformers collecting properly. So, a brief how I got into Transformers collecting. I had a handful of Transformers as a kid. Like I said in previous videos, we were poor, so I didn't have a lot of toys as a kid. So I would usually get like one or two toys for my birthday, sometimes a couple of toys at Christmas, and maybe one toy around Easter in the Easter basket. And if I was lucky, random toys throughout the year. But the random toys were either dollar store garbage or stuff that we got from the pawn shops or thrift stores or yard sales or whatever, flea markets, whatever. Generation 2 happened, and I went all in because at that time I was working. I was earning my own money so I could buy toys. And then Beast Wars happened, and I've already talked about how much I hate Beast Wars. I lost interest in Transformers because I refused to watch the cartoon at the time. I refused to buy the toys. I wanted nothing to do with it. And so I lost interest in Transformers. In 2000, we got a computer in our home. The first time I got a proper computer, modern, modern specs, modern operating system, current tech, connected to the internet, a real computer. And I got on the internet for the first time, and the very first thing I did was looked up Transformers toys from the past. I bookmarked a ton of Transformers fan websites, um, and I started rekindling my passion for Transformers. At this time, I was a teenager, late teens, 19, 18, 19 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, but I didn't really have an interest in revisiting toys because at this point, I was investing heavily in DJ equipment and car audio equipment for my car and making car payments and teenager stuff. But I was walking in a store in the mall at the time was called Software Etc. Later, it would get bought out by GameStop, which it's still there, but it's basically a Funko Pop store now. Even though it says GameStop on the sign, it's not a GameStop anymore. But anyways, and I was looking at the just browsing the shelves, and I saw this Transformer, and it was, and I've already told part of this story, I think, in another video, but bear with me, I'm almost there. It was Robots in Disguise Prowl, Autobot Brother Prowl, the white police car. Now, I didn't know any better at the time, so I thought this was Hasbro bringing back the original Transformers, just like they kind of did with Generation 2. I thought, oh, good, they're finally bringing back the real Transformers. So I bought the toy, and it was $12.99 at the time. $9.99 at your department store, $12.99 in the mall because, software, etc. Later, GameStop. They were a little bit more expensive. I bring that up because if that exact toy was made today, it would be like $27 plus tax. So that's the only reason why I mentioned the price. It stood out in my mind. But anyways, and then I went online and I read an article on, I believe it was the New York Times, but it could have been USA Today. But the article was talking about how Transformers were back. I know Beast Wars fans will say they never went away, but to those who weren't in the fandom, to the broader general populace, Transformers died in '92 and were basically, nobody cared about Generation 2. It was like a failed relaunch, and nobody knew about Beast Wars. If they knew about it, they didn't care about it unless they were Beast Wars fans, which, no shade if you're a Beast Wars fan, just look, it wasn't for me, okay? But they were talking about how they were bringing back Transformers to their roots, cars and trucks and vehicles. And it was a toy line in Japan known as Car Robots, but imported into the US as Robots in Disguise. Now, I have to be specific because Hasbro would later reuse the Robots in Disguise line for a totally different toy line, but that's neither here nor there. So I had that toy. And then I still had broken pieces of what was left of the toys from my childhood. So I didn't really have a collection at this point. I just had this one toy, which I took home, opened it up, played with it, had a lot of fun, and was a kid again. I felt like, oh yeah, this is fun. I want more of these. So we had a lot more toy stores or department stores that sold toys back then. So I went looking for other, robots in disguise toys. We had Shopko, Fred Meyer, King's, we had Kmart. We didn't have Walmart, but we had Target. We had um, we had a couple of dollar stores, but not like we do now. They were different dollar stores than we have now, and it was just a different time. And of course, we had KB Toys still, and KB was selling toys, but they were a little too expensive at KB, and Kmart was still mostly selling Beast machines at the time. KB was knee deep in Beast Wars Beast machines. They had some of the robots in disguise, but they mostly had the same ones that software etc. was selling. And again, they were expensive compared to the other guys. So I started buying them mostly from Shopko and Target and Fred Meyer because they were the ones selling them at the fairest price. So I started collecting robots in disguise. I got I'm just gonna say a bunch of RID toys, 2001 car robots, a bunch, almost the whole line. When it was all said and done, at the end, there were like maybe 7 or 8 toys in the line I never owned. I had that many of them. I almost had the whole line. Now today, I'm a far cry from what I had in the past, but because they're way more expensive now. But I walked into a comic book shop that I had been to a few times because I used to go there to buy comic books. And I was walking around the comic book shop. I used to buy comic books and trading cards, but she was out of trading cards. And she said that she wasn't getting them in anymore because people weren't buying them anymore, so she stopped carrying them. I was a little disappointed. But then I saw this glass case that had a bunch of toys in it. It had some He-Man, it had some G.I. Joe, and then on the bottom shelf, she had about 20 or so Transformers, original Generation 1 Transformers. And this is the one I bought. This was the very first one I bought. It was $15 at the time, and I remember that vividly because I kept the price tag for a long, long time. Because I kept the price tag attached to it because I didn't want to forget how much it was because I was like, no, this is going to cost me a lot more money in the future if I don't hold on to this toy. Which, spoilers, I didn't. And let's just say it cost me a lot more than $15 to get this back in my collection. Uh, I'm not going to say how much, but it was too much. But I had to have this toy again. Now, as an action figure, he's got a little better articulation than your standard G1 toy. His arms, they do the up and down, they don't go forward. No waist movement, no head movement. But he can kick his legs pretty good. And he can kind of do the splits pretty good. And he can bend at the knee really good. So you can get some limited posing, and the wings can go up or down. The antenna can go up and down. The legs, the insect legs, can rotate. So you can get some good articulation. Now he's supposed to come with a sword, I believe, and a shield, if I remember correctly, or a gun. I used to have the weapons as a kid or as a teenager, I should say, but I don't this time because he was a little too much with his accessories. I just wanted the action figure because I was going to lose the accessories anyways. Now his transformation is pretty fun, actually, and not too complicated, but not too simple. So to start with, we're going to move the antenna up. We're going to fold the arms out. We're going to fold the legs out, and we're going to grab the abdomen and pull it down. Pull it all the way down. Now that allows us to take the arms, push the fist in, push this piece up, and we can bend the arm in this way, which we have to move the bug legs out of the way to do this. And we do basically the same thing with his other arm. A little tricky because you got to push the fist in and shove him in at the same time without breaking anything because he's expensive. Let's not break it. Now, it's the hard plastic, not the rubbery plastic of today. And he does have some metal. This is all solid metal right here. This is all metal. And this bar here connecting the legs is metal as well. Once we fold the wings up, we get the bug legs situated. Then we can take the hind legs and you pull this piece up. You take the foot and fold it in, and you do this. You push it in and fold the foot in at the same time, and then you bend the leg down and bend the foot so that it makes the grasshopper leg. Or I guess he's a locust, but same goddamn thing. So there he is. Now he's an insect, a deluxe Insecticon. And then you take the chest. You got to fold these once again to get them out of the way, and you just fold the chest plate up to become his shoulder pads, or the insect's shoulders, basically. And then you move the insect legs back down, and now he's a bug. Really, really good looking toy. I really like his bug mode. I think he's a better grasshopper than Kickback, the um, the Insecticon you're more familiar with. But also, he's a good looking toy. I like the black and yellow, the colors, Very creepy looking. What is that? Interesting. I don't know what that was. Anyways, something covered my camera a second ago. Must have been a shadow. Anyways, really good looking toy. He's got the bug eyes, he's got the antenna, the legs, the wings, translucent wings, which I love. Just a really good looking toy. Um, this time, he's absolutely going to stay in my collection. I am not selling him for shit. So he is definitely going into my collection. And he's going to get played with, but I will be very careful not to break him. Because the original one I had back in the day, I did break. But I didn't pay that much for him back then as I did this time around. But yeah, he's a really good looking toy. I love him. 5 out of 5 star if I was rating toys. I highly recommend either whether you have nostalgia for him or not. He's a good looking Transformer bug. He's a better Insecticon than the actual Insecticon. Stay cool.